sharp blow. Helen Morgan slaps Boris in face with latest statement saying Lib Dems can win anywhere. Boris issued nightmare warning as Lib Dems target 2% swing seats to tear down blue wall. Boris Johnson has been issued a nightmare warning by the Liberal Democrats as they draw more marginal blue wall seats into their crosshairs. In a by-election blow to the Prime Minister, the Conservatives lost the North Shropshire seat they had held since 1832 to the Liberal Democrats. Victorious Lib Dem candidate Helen Morgan overturned a Tory majority of almost 23,000, to win the seat by 6,000 votes. The historic swing prompted political commentator Tom Newton-Dunn to say there was no such thing as a safe Tory seat moving forwards. Sarah Olney MP, Lib Dem business spokesperson and winner of the Richmond Park by-election said, Conservative MPs will be quaking in their boots today. The Liberal Democrats are in a close second place in dozens of Conservative blue wall seats across the country. The blue wall is crumbling before Boris Johnson's eyes. This really is the nightmare before Christmas for Boris Johnson and what feels like the beginning of the end of his awful stint as Prime Minister. For far too long the Conservative Party has taken people for granted and failed to deliver for communities. The voters in North Shropshire were heard loud and clear last night. This Conservative government has failed to deliver a fair deal for North Shropshire, from underfunding local health services to shortchanging British farmers. The Lib Dems say they are confident they will be able to replicate the victory in more marginal Tory seats. They are already a close second in dozens of Conservative-held seats up and down the country which would require less of a swing to secure than the 34% seen in North Shropshire. Seats such as Winchester and Cheltenham would require less than 1,000 votes to turn yellow in the next election. In London, there are only 600 votes between the Lib Dems and power in Wimbledon and Carshalton and Wallington. A 5% swing from the electorate in Cheadle or South Cambridgeshire could also send more Lib Dems sailing into Parliament, while a 2% shift could oust Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab from Esher and Walton. The blue wall is already beginning to crack, not only in Chesham and Amersham which flipped in June, but across stalwart Tory councils. In May 2021, the party gained control councils in Oxfordshire, Cambridge, Surrey and Wiltshire, pillars of the blue wall. In the wake of her victory, North Shropshire MP Ms Morgan commented, "If we can win in North Shropshire, we can win anywhere." Until now, Mr Johnson was held in place by Conservatives convinced he is best placed to retain as much of Labour's former red wall at the next election as possible. The calculation was that Rishi Sunak, Liz Truss and even Mr Raab could not connect with voters in the same way as Mr Johnson. Now Tories are worrying that Mr Johnson is putting at risk their heartlands, the blue wall that also included Chesham and Amersham, which was similarly lost to the Liberal Democrats in a by-election in June. If this is the guiding question, the Prime Minister's future is much less secure. This puts unifying, calmer figures in the frame like Mr Hunt as a potential successor, someone who had nothing to do with the incumbent and who might steady the ship after the turbulence of the Johnson regime. The biggest challenge for Mr Johnson is not his colleagues but the public. The most striking part of today was the hostility on the streets of Uxbridge, Mr Johnson's adopted political home which he has represented since 2015. A string of former Johnson voters told me they would not do that again because of his errors, particularly over Partygate. His home crowd, in what was once a marginal seat, going cold is a telling and worrying sign. Mr Johnson has extraordinary talents to escape from scrapes, well practiced across 20 years in frontline politics. He will need all of this and more in the new year to reboot and reset.